Hi, first graders and first grade parents. Miss Pagan here. Today we're going to talk about what we're going to do for journal. Yesterday when we left off, we had started our informational writing. You were able to draw a picture, you were able to write a topic sentence and your first detail. Today we're going to move on to our second detail, our third detail, and our conclusion sentence. So yesterday, if you were working in a journal, you'll want to get your journal back out. If you were working on a white piece of paper, you'll want to get that out, or if you were working on a whiteboard, you want to get that out, and any materials that you need for your writing today. We're going to pick up where we left off after our first detail. Our first detail was going back to the story that you listened to on Monday, yesterday, and so we need to make sure that we are going to pick up right where we left off. So we're not going to start on a new line. We're just going to continue where we left off with that last sentence from yesterday. Today we're going to be talking about why Pig chose the hat that he chose. So if you took some notes from the story, you'll remember that each animal chose a hat for a specific reason. So what happened next in the story was Pig made the choice of his hat. So detail 2 is going to start with a sentence starter. You're going to get to start with either next and a comma, also and a comma, or in addition and a comma. The detail is about Pig, so no matter which one you choose, it's going to say Pig chose his hat because. So you could say next, comma, Pig chose his hat because. Also, comma, Pig chose his hat because. Or in addition, Pig chose his hat because. So in your journal, you're going to go ahead and choose one, making sure you start on your line next to your detail 1. You're going to write out your whole sentence. You're then going to make sure you do your quick checks, just like we did yesterday and just like we did last week. You're going to check for your uppercase letter, making sure it's capital. At the beginning, you're going to make sure that you have finger space in between all of your words. You're going to check for a period at the end, and you're going to whisper read to make sure you did your best work and that your letters are nicely put on the line. When you're checking your punctuation, you're also going to want to make sure that you check to make sure that your commas are there after your transition words. After you've checked, you've read it out loud, you made sure that it makes sense, you're going to get ready to move on to your third detail. Now remember, each time we write a sentence, we want to make sure we are sharing it with whoever we are working with, either a parent or an older sibling or whoever you're getting your work done with. Making sure that you tell them the sentence you're choosing and then finishing the sentence off and making sure it sounds right and makes sense. Before we move on to detail 3, I wanted to throw in a little bonus because in the story, there weren't just 3 animals that chose hats, there were actually 4. Now, typically when we write in the classroom and even with our journals from last week, we really only stuck with 3 details, a topic, and a conclusion. But today I want to give you a little bonus, a little extra to do. What I'd like you to do is to think about who was another animal, not the last animal, but the third animal that was in the story that chose a hat. And it was actually the cat. So we're going to do a then bonus sentence. It's going to be a detail in between 2 and 3. So technically this is your third detail sentence, but for today I'm going to call it a bonus sentence. So your bonus sentence is going to start with then, comma, cat chose her hat because. Then is a really good transition word to use after your next, also, or in addition. Your then is after your second detail, but maybe right before your third detail or right before you're getting ready to kind of wrap things up. So I would like you to then think about why cat chose her hat, because we don't want to leave that detail out. But again, typically we only do 3 detail sentences. Today we're going to do 4, just for fun. So after you have, well, there's only one choice. So after you have thought about it, I want you to make sure that you tell whoever you're working with what your sentence is when you've completed it. Then cat chose her hat because. Make sure you share it out loud and then go ahead, write it in your journal or on your paper or your whiteboard with doing your quick checks, making sure you check for your uppercase letter, your finger space, your period at the end, and whisper reading, and of course making sure your comma's there. After we do our bonus sentence, we're now going to move on to our third detail. Our third detail is going to tell which animal chose a hat last. So if you read the story, you listened to the story, you would know that was horse. Horse got to choose their hat last. So we're going to use a transition word like finally, comma, last, comma, or lastly, comma. So if you choose the first one, you would say, finally, horse chose his hat because, or last, horse chose his hat because, or lastly, horse chose his hat because. So remember, you're only choosing one, making sure you say it out loud first before you write, and then you can go ahead and write it down. Not forgetting your 4 quick tricks at the bottom: your uppercase letter, your finger space, your punctuation, your comma and your period, and making sure you whisper read. So by the time you finish that sentence, we're going to get ready to wrap everything up and work on our conclusion. All right, hopefully you had enough time to finish your last detail. Let's get ready to move on to our conclusion. If you remember, when we do our writing, we like to think of it like a sandwich. We like to think of the topic sentence as our bread. It's starting off telling us what we're going to be talking about. The middle part, our details, are like our meat, our filling, all of the details that support the topic sentence. And then if we think about our conclusion, it's like the other piece of bread. It has to be similar to the topic sentence. So our conclusions today, I've written 3, and I'm going to let you choose which one you'd like, or if you'd like to write your own and just change some of the words a little bit to make it unique and your own, that's fine too. No matter what, we have to make sure that the conclusion always goes back to our topic sentence. So my first choice that I wrote is, these are the reasons why the animals chose the hats that they did. That again mirrors our topic sentence. It goes back and kind of says the same thing, but now we've already done our explanation, so we're making sure the reader knows that you fully explained all of those reasons in your sentences above. The next choice is, it is for these reasons that the animals chose their hats. Again, going back up to the topic sentence, making it sound very similar, just like the bottom piece of bread would be in our sandwich. It would just be very similar to the top. And our final choice is, in conclusion, comma, this is why the animals chose their hats. You might want to choose this one because you might like using those transitional words like we used earlier in our details. If you choose the last one, you do have to make sure you put that comma, because in conclusion are some transitional words where we would require a comma because we have to take a little pause there. So right now you're going to choose one of these sentences as your conclusion. You're going to go ahead and write it after your last detail. You're then going to go ahead and do your final quick checks, checking for your uppercase letter, finger space between all your words, making sure you put your correct punctuation, a period or a comma, and making sure that you whisper read and making sure that it makes sense. When you're finished and you've gotten all the way done with your conclusion, I would like you to go ahead and go back up to the top, and you're going to go ahead and reread your whole paragraph. You're going to make sure that you haven't skipped anything, that you put all your letters really nicely on the line, that you have a period at the end of each sentence. If you've done that, then you did a great job, and I want you to give yourself a big pat on the back for making a really nice paragraph and doing a great job writing the past 2 days. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to either me, Miss Pagan, or to your child's teacher if you have any other questions or concerns about writing. So I hope you have a really nice time writing, and good luck.